There it goes.
Oh, that was what, they do that at the Rose Center now, for vertigo.
Well, the
They
vertigo.
put it on a screen and they look at your eyes,
And you can see them.
and she or he
Yeah.
can see,
The computer tracks them.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they do that for the, forget how those letters go. It's the postural vertigo. NV, let's see, well, anyway. It's when you have inner ear problems, but it's not Meniere's either. So there's a vertigo that happens because of your sinuses. And you get up and you're kind of like, whoa, okay, wait, hang on. We'll just wait for this room to stop spinning around and then you can proceed. Or you turn over at night and it's like, oh, man, you're nauseous as your sinuses drain into the other sinus, right? I can tell you how to take care of that too, by the way. Or you get this sudden vertigo that in Western medicine believes, and we haven't yet proven it, but we're pretty sure, a small crystal sits on one of the hairs in the circle there, and when the hairs bend over, they're like reeds in the river, so you can see which way the river's going, right? Well, that's how we know how we're going, because our little river will bend our little reeds over in whatever direction we're heading. But then sometimes it gets a little dry in there and a rock gets on one of those, and it just stays there. So you feel like you're going in this perpetual circle because the misinformation has to do with that little rock sitting on your hairs. The idea of the treatment is to pop that rock off and then to capture it into an area like a gravel pit where it won't give you problems again. That's the idea. Now, I can guarantee you're going to have a problem again. Maybe not as often, but you will have a problem again. And so they're supposed to teach you those exercises at home so that you can do them. It's been my experience as a practitioner, people won't do them at home because they're so nauseous and they make them more nauseous, and now they're all alone and there's nobody to walk them through it and they can't think because they're so dizzy, and it goes on and on and on. So they just lay down and wait the several days for it to just go away, which I think, well, whatever, right? But this is wind. In our medicine, we're talking about wind. If you get going in this perpetual circle and it's really bad, you got a hurricane going on in your head, right? Or if it's horrible, it could be a tornado, right, going on. But either way, it disrupts you. Now, when you combine those two things, you get a condition we call wind cold. And this is a condition of winter time. Now, cold, of course, gets in through the windows. We call them the interstices. They could be called the pores, right? It kind of comes in, it just settles, and it makes them stiff, and it closes up. Now, if our pores close first, the wind can't get in. That's cool. The cold can't get in. But I don't know if you've ever sat next to a leaky window on a windy, cold day, and the cold blows in anyway because the wind drives it in, right? And of course the problem there is if you've ever been in one of those houses, they never warm up. Never. And that is how you begin to feel like you're chilled to the absolute bone. It doesn't matter if you're in a 90-degree room, you will feel chilled to the absolute bone. And you can feel the wind in your body with the shivering, because the shivering that starts up is actually the wind, right? It's a perpetual motion. And of course, you get to shivering like that. Now, cold is a very interesting little, we're going to start with wind. So wind is what we call a yang evil, right? It's strong and it doesn't settle. That's why it's always in motion, okay? And it opens things up. It blows them open. Think about a tornado, blows the whole house open, right? But you can also have like a window open and your curtains are way across the room because it's blowing everything open. And it blows the leaves, it blows everything. It keeps everything in motion. And it might be a nice motion, and then it might be a hurricane destroying the whole city, okay? And it usually comes in the upper part of the body from the backside. As a matter of fact, from right here. this area right here is extremely vulnerable to wind. It's also very vulnerable to cold, so you can see now you got a double whammy going on there. And a lot of people during a windy day will complain about a couple of things, and one of them is that their neck is beginning to get achy because it's invaded by this wind. Then, of course, you have it can advance to a disease, as we talked about. You know, you can end up with seizures, you can end up with strokes, you can end up with Bell palsy, which we'll be talking about in just a little while. Cold, on the other hand, is congealing, contracting, and constricting. It makes it hard to move because everything's cold, and unless you warm up the tendons, you know, so you get out of bed in the morning and you do something kind of like this. You know, and you get your way to the bathroom, and then you make your way down to coffee, and as you're going, you know, you get a little bit straighter and a little bit straighter, and in about a half an hour to an hour, depending on your cold level, you begin to think, well, I don't know why my back hurt this morning, but I feel better now. You warmed up, and then you go to breakfast, and you sit down, and you stop, and the cold settles in again, and so you get up from breakfast kind of like, you know, and you get yourself going a little bit. You know, I have experience with this one.
Oh.
So, because it's contracted all of the tendons and the muscles. If it contracts the muscles enough, you do, you get cramps, and we'll be looking at that in just a little while also. So, the problem with cold is, of course, it can chill you to the bone, and you go around seeking warmth, which is why we just had warm soup. What better way to warm up than put something on the inside and let it warm out that way? Better would be to protect yourself from the cold, but we'll look at that. Now, if you eat cold suddenly, a sudden coldness will create cramps. You jump into a river, right, that's like 54 degrees and it's 190 outside, it does not feel good. You are suddenly like, ah, and you're jumping back out of the river, right, because every pore in your body slams shut, every thought in your head slams shut, and you jumped back out of the water. I learned to water ski really well because I was in the Sacramento River, and it was 108 in Sacramento, but when you fell in the water, it was 54 degrees. So one way not to get wet was to stay up on your skis, right? So I learned to water ski, and I learned to stay up because that whole falling down thing was really, you know? And that was my motto on snow skis too. There should be no snow on my jacket. Snow belongs under the skis, not on my jacket. Because I didn't like to be cold. I don't like to be cold at all. Now, if we have a cold constitution and we add cold to it, this is a problem. And a lot of people actually do because they have a low chi. You know, a lot of times people will say, you know, what's wrong with me? And I'll say, you got no chi at all. And then they...
Chi at all.
So, and the chi helps the blood carry the warmth around our body. So if you don't have enough of it, you're not carrying the warmth around your body. And so then when you add cold on cold, you just get colder, right? And then a lot of people will do what's fashionable in our culture, and this is especially during the summer. They don't jump in the river. They go and they eat ice cream while sitting outside at 115 degrees. And then they wonder why they have diarrhea, because we talked about it affects the large intestine, right? And all of a sudden everything cramps and you got diarrhea and you're running for it. Children are especially vulnerable to this problem. You know, ice is not a normal thing in human history. You know, if you had ice available, you didn't eat it. You know, it was outside and you left it out there, but you didn't eat it because it was already cold. You know, we learn to make ice, and to eat it is actually counterproductive to our bodies for most people. So, one of the things that the the cold causes is for the chi to constrict and contract. And so the pores on your body, now you know this is skin. I think you figured that one out, right? But we're actually talking about these areas of sweat glands. So a couple of things that happens is you can't get the sweat out onto the top of your skin, and your skin gets really dry because you just have, it's just not flowing, and anything in here is not flowing. We are supposed to flow sweat all the time, but we're not supposed to be able to experience it unless we're exercising. You know, it's like we shouldn't be dripping with sweat ever unless we're exercising. If you are, then you got a chi problem. That's true, unless it's a yin problem and you're having hot flashes.
Yeah, it's a yin problem.
But a lot of people will have just spontaneous sweating, and that's a chi problem. It has nothing to do with them being hot or exercising or being in too hot a room. They could be in the freezing cold outside and start sweating. It has to do with the collapse of the chi that holds the sweat in. But if the pore is constricted and this fluid can't get out to your skin, then you get dry skin, right? And we actually call that dry skin.
Really?
You thought I was going to be really fancy. So you can tell if it's cold, dry skin because there's no rash, unless you put it there by perpetually scratching, right? But a lot of times you begin to itch and you're looking for the rash and trying to figure out why you itch. It's because of the cold that you're itching. If there's a rash, it's because of heat. Okay, so they both can cause this issue. Now the skin is also the tissue belonging to the lung. These are all continuous in our medicine. Actually, they are in Western medicine too. If you think about it, your skin comes around to your lips, right? It goes inside your mouth. It goes all the way down your digestive system and comes back out your anus. And all of those are on the outside. It also goes down your trachea, out into your bronchus, and out into your lung. So the air sacs that we talk about are on the outside of your body. They're the skin of your lung. So it's one continuous process. It isn't until something moves across those tissues that they're inside your body. So a lot of your body is like a donut hole, you know? And a lot of times we think a donut hole is being inside the donut, but it's not. It's on the outside of the donut. And that's what these two holes are all about. And so when the skin closes over this, though, it traps the cold. And if it can't get it back open, it traps the cold. And this is when you begin to have those uncomfortable cold feelings, you know? If you're just a cold person, you won't necessarily notice how cold you are until you go into an environment that adds cold to you. But when you get cold from the outside coming in, you notice it. You notice it quite a bit, okay? Then, you know what this is? Somebody jumping out of bed suddenly with a leg cramp, right?
Yes.
And you know that you don't get tied into your covers unless you have a leg cramp, right?
What?
You can get out of your covers at any time except when you
don't.
have that leg cramp, right?
Right.
And then they're like octopi, you know, with all 8 arms around you and you can't get out. There's a really cute thing on the internet. It says, I don't always jump right out of bed in the morning, but when I do, it's because I have a leg cramp. And they are extremely painful, and they do disrupt your sleep. You don't have a leg cramp and stay asleep. It just doesn't happen. But it's not just legs. You can get them anywhere that gets cold. And the cramping actually occurs because the cold has invaded as deep as the muscle. However, it's not until you suddenly move that muscle, and it can't because of the cold. And then it cramps. You're not, you know, I know you're asleep, so you're not aware of all the small changes that you make in your position. You're probably aware of the great big ones, but the small ones that go on all the time. And the problem is, of course, you make this little tiny adjustment, maybe of your big toe to the left or whatever, and suddenly it's all the way up your leg, and you're like out of bed trying to figure out how to get rid of that cramp. Now, if you know enough about anatomy, you just, you use the opposing muscle to relax the muscle that's cramped. Every muscle has an opposing muscle, right? If I move my arm up, I had to relax the arm that moves it down. If I move it down, I have to relax the arm that moves it up, okay? So if I get a cramp in this muscle, I engage this muscle because that has to relax. It's a physics thing, all right? So if you get a cramp in the back of your leg, you want to engage the front of your leg. If you get a cramp in both of them simultaneously, which sometimes can happen, yeah.
You're just screwed.
Those are the ones that are really hard. Heat will actually take care of the cramp, but you know, by the time you get over to the microwave and you get the rice bag all done, by now you're crying.
Can you show what you mean by engaging the front part of your leg?
So if you get a cramp in the back of your leg, right, we often think of it that we're stretching our calf muscle. What we have to do, what we're actually doing is engaging the shin muscles. Because otherwise you can't stretch the back muscle. So if I get a cramp here, right,
Flex your feet.
I get my foot into a flexion position. Usually I do something like this.
I can see you.
Usually I do something like this. So this muscle feels like it's stretching. But what's happening is I'm engaging. And that relaxes the muscle. in the
But what
back.
about when you get the cramp that's high up, like the inside here?
Right.
Those are really painful.
It is, and so those muscles do this. See? The muscle on the inside of the leg does this, and then that's when it cramps. So you have to engage this. That means you have to straighten out and you have to pull your leg out.
Oh. I will remember that.
Now sometimes the muscle, you can actually just stretch them by pulling on it, especially that one. That one is actually pretty easy to pull out, except it hurts while you're doing it.
And it hurts so bad while you're having it that.
Right. So, so since that is one of what we call the adductors, bringing the leg in, we abduct, bring the leg out. Okay. Some of the harder muscles are the peroneal muscle here, because it pulls the foot up and in, and you have to rotate it out and down. And by the time you do that, you have 4 other cramps. Because you literally have to put your little toe on the ground and roll your foot forward this way. And then you might get a cramp.
Yeah.
Hot bath seems to be in order.
Yes. The biggest thing about cramps is to try to avoid them, okay? So remember, it's about a small muscle that has cooled off and then is moved. And the smaller the muscle, the more likely the cramp. All right, like a lot of people get toe cramps, but not necessarily leg cramps, okay? Because those are very small muscles. So to avoid them is we have to keep them warm, and we have to just simply admit that we have to keep them warm. Now, sometimes people want to be fashionable and they want to go to bed in their little thin negligees. I don't know about anybody in here, but I don't go to bed that way. I have sweats on and hats on, and during the winter, I literally wear my ski socks to bed. If I wear my ski socks to bed, I get no leg cramps because I'm warm. Okay. The house could be cold.
Yeah.
But I'm under my covers and my feet are warm, and as long as my feet are warm, no leg cramps. At least not at night.
What about drug-induced cramps?
Drug-induced cramps are a whole different problem.
Okay.
That's actually wind,
Oh,
where it stops something from moving.
okay.
Right. So, and of course, that happens quite a bit. Another thing you can, of course, do for regular cramps is magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes for gut also, because that's why it's a great laxative. It relaxes muscle, and that happens to be a whole series of muscles going through, right? You want to relax them so you can have a smooth move, right?
Maybe there's about 6 or 7 different kinds of magnesium.
There are. Magnesium citrate is actually the easiest one to absorb. All of them are absorbable, but one of the reasons they all come in different doses, in different sizes indicated, is because they're harder to absorb. And so to get the same amount inside of you, you have to change the milligrams on the dose of magnesium. Magnesium citrate is such that it's the easiest one for us to absorb, and so that's one of the reasons I have that on the shelf. It also tends to, because it's quick to absorb, it's also quick to work. So if you're constipated, you just take a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
Milk of magnesia is magnesium. It's a rock. Yes, Mark?
Yeah, apropos what you're saying, on several occasions when I had a very severe cramp in the leg, I instantly ran into the kitchen to get magnesium citrate, and it immediately went away.
By the time you ran in the
Almost when I
kitchen,
t-
sure.
Almost when I, it's soon after I took the pill. It's
Yeah,
very quickly.
But it may actually have been because you were moving around and warmed up the cramp, but you needed to keep it away. Now, magnesium also comes in a spray.
Oh,
All right, you can't get it at every store, but you can get it at a lot of the stores. And you can spray it onto the cramp itself. You're still gonna have to walk about for a little ways, for a little while. But it will help the cramping resolve for the rest of the night at least.
There's leg cramp pills too.
There are
You
leg
know,
cramp
that I
pills.
get, and I take those.
Yeah, and most of what's in them is magnesium.
Magnesium.
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's funny, but
They do work.
they do work. Magnesium is very good at working. So,
Oh my gosh.
we're gonna talk about those combined problems. I know, this is such a weird picture, right? It makes you do exactly what the picture's for. It makes you feel dizzy.
Yeah.
So one form of wind cold that we're dealing with all the time is allergies.
That's what I have today. Keep
And it
watching
makes
my
us
eye.
feel kinda, because there is literally fluid in our sinus behind our eyeballs, and there's too much fluid in our inner ear, when we move, we get that feeling like, whoa, the whole world can be in motion. Now, there is a different, this is dizziness, this is not vertigo. Vertigo is a different process, it's a wind process, okay? And the vertigo is something that, it doesn't feel like this is moving, it feels like this is moving. You have a very unsteady gait and you don't know where you are in the world. The problem with this is you don't know where the world is compared to you. And when you look at it, it's going all over the place, okay? So there's a little bit of difference between the two things. So all diseases with watery humors are liquids, that are clear, pure, and cold are ascribed to cold, are from cold. So allergies, you know, you might have a faucet going, but it's a cold problem, all right? And a lot of that is you as a person tend to be cold. And then you tend to have more allergies than somebody who's very hot. You know, hot people have their problems, don't get me wrong. Well, I'll give you a lecture on that during the summer, but, but, you know, the allergies tend to belong to cold people, especially the hay fevers and whatnot. We get windy and cold. So the signs, of course, are, you know, clear fluids coming out all over the face, usually. They can also be on the body, right? You know, people that are allergic to poison oak have seen this a lot, right? You know, I mean, it pops open and it just oozes out, but it's all clear. It might not be totally colorless. Clear and colorless are not the same thing, all right? It can be just slightly off to the brownish side when you've got poison oak. But, you know, you pop it open and there it goes, right? Everywhere. And it itches even more.
Pop it open? Why would you pop it open?
Because you can't keep your hands off the
Because it feels good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I'm not one of those people, actually. I'm not allergic to poison oak. So the majority of humans are, but there are some of us that really are not. And so you send us out into the woods.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that idea, okay? When you're coughing, right, what comes up is usually clear and it can be colorless or white. You know, you're not bringing up this chunky green or yellow stuff or even brown. You're just bringing up a whole lot of clear, thin fluids. And these are a cold problem. And of course, you don't feel very stable. Now, because cold by its nature, so yin, which is cold, eventually reaches its end stage of total coldness and will transform then to heat. This is what this symbol actually means, is that the yang, whatever the yang is, when it reaches its major or its maximum, it will transform to cold. As morbid as it is, the best example of that is somebody with a fever of 108, all of a sudden they're going to start cooling off because they're dead. They have transformed beyond the maximum. They don't keep getting hot. They get dead and then they cool off, right? So at that point, yang has reached its maximum and they cool off, all right? You can reach maximum cold also, and then you get an infection. And you
That
start
heats you up.
heating up, right? So your allergies that are chronic can turn into sinusitis. So one can become the other.
You mean sinusitis means heat?
So itis means infection,
Oh.
right? And so it becomes infected. Now your head begins hot, and things begin to look yellow, or God forbid, green. Green means pseudomonas, but you know that's usually because some little kid has been out playing in the dirt and then picks their nose. That's how come they end up with green snot a lot. It's like, ooh. But you know, his nose is bothering him. I get it, you know. But anyway, so that's what happens with that. Asthma is a cold wind problem, all right? Remember, it constricts the airways, and then the person can't breathe out with asthma. The opposite is bronchitis, where they can't breathe in because it's too tight. Asthma traps, bronchitis won't allow it in. Now there's also fibrosis and a few other things where there's so much cold in there that the whole lung is constricted to the point where it can't move at all. It's not moving at all. And so the deep breath can't be taken, right? Because you can't move. You're cold, you're ice, right? So now, interestingly, the USA has about 7% of our children have asthma. Is the single most largest reason for missed school up until COVID.
Yeah.
In normal times,
Yeah.
Yeah.
asthma is what keeps kids out of school the most, 7%.
Wow.
And the scientists, we really believe public health that the number one cause is cigarette smoking, both during pregnancy and afterwards. And it can be first-hand smoke, second-hand smoke, or third-hand smoke. Okay, it's not generally first-hand smoke when you're talking about small children. They aren't the ones lighting the cigarettes. They're getting the second-hand smoke. But it's also from the toxins that are all over the environment that they're putting all over their bodies, okay? We also see it more because of the over-cleaning. You know, I mean, we've gotten to the point where we think sterility is good. There is less asthma in the farming areas than there is in the cities. And children that are allowed to play outside and eat dirt have less asthma than those children where you have the helicopter parents who won't let them even, you know, touch dirt, let alone eat it. Eating dirt is good for kids.
What's third degree?
What the third-hand smoke you're talking about?
Mhm.
That's the contamination of the environment.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And lack of breastfeeding. because of the lack of the immunity that's given during the breastfeeding. It is now recommended that women breastfeed for the first 2 years.
I thought it was longer than that.
Well, at least. The WHO recommends at least 2 years of breastfeeding. We still have the idea that, I think we're getting pretty good in the USA that we should breastfeed some. But there is a whole cultural problem that a child over the age of 1 breastfeeding is just like not okay.
Yeah.
You know, because now they're walking and they come up to the jugs, right? And they're like, I'm hungry. Okay, well, you know, you're carrying.
Jealous.
Yeah, yeah, right? You know, I mean, it's great. The kid gets to be fed when they're hungry.
Right?
Instead of, you know, the 3 hots, right? Now, in China, with the worst air pollution, well, next to India.
Yeah.
Oh boy, India, poor India. But anyway, Beijing is where they did this study. There's only 2.1% childhood asthma. It's not air pollution.
Wow. Huh.
I've been reading a lot about gas stoves,
Right?
gas in the house, causing respiratory problems and asthma and all these
it's not
kinds of
ventilated,
things.
sure.
Yeah,
Because you got carbon monoxide, you got lowering of the oxygen levels and stuff like that, you know. There's everything it seems that we do in modern is problematic. But, you know, the United States has one of the highest levels of childhood asthma. So other cause, now if you literally add the virus, any virus, then you get an illness where the cold may transform to the heat, and you might even run a bit of a fever or you feel a little bit hot. The cold itself, that thing we call a cold, it can be one of 4 or 5, it probably has a bazillion of them, but we have 4 known viruses, viral families, because the coronavirus family causes the common cold. So just because, for the side note, this was one of the reasons why when we found out it was a coronavirus, many of us in the medical community went, oh, it's a coronavirus, no big deal,
Huh.
right? Because we don't usually have coronaviruses becoming this virulent. And so there was kind of this little bit of a pause where we in the medical community were thinking, oh yay, it's a coronavirus.
Oh, wow.
Because the body recognizes coronaviruses,
Huh.
but not this one. And so wrong we were, and we will admit that. The rhinovirus, most of that dripping, if you get a drippy cold, because you can have different cold symptoms, right?
Mhm.
But there's the drippy cold. If you have the drippy cold, it's probably a rhinovirus. It will, rhino meaning nose. It is stuck in the nose, and it is really drippy, drippy, drippy. These are contagious, by the way, because they're viruses. You should stay home. And unfortunately, they take about 10 days to go away.
Really?
Unless you come here. If you come here, I'll get you probably back on your feet in 2 to 3 days, provided you showed up on time. RSV, which is respiratory syncytial, thank you, virus. This can be actually deadly for very small children and for very old people. We currently have a study going on over at Paradigm for a new vaccine for RSV. So if you're interested in being part of their research, give them a call and you get it for free. I think, aren't you guys part of that?
yes,
Yeah.
and I just got a compliment from the doctor.
That you like having shot?
that he said he thanked me very much for participating, and I was Ed and I are one of the few that have stuck it out and they were able to go on to the 3rd year.
Okay, so this.
And you make money.
You make, every time,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
$5
think
a
I have
call.
a friend.
No, really, you figure that out, it's a 3-year study. I
Right
said,
now, but
"Whoa,
I
that's
had
big
more
money."
I spent it.
So this research started just before coronavirus, in 2019, right?
Yeah, right.
And of course, there was a need for a bit of a pause there. They had to hit the pause button because they started working on the coronavirus, trying to find help with the vaccines there. And then they've gone back. So, and the parainfluenza virus, which is usually a childhood virus also, can make a kid really, really sick. If there are other underlying issues, it could kill them, but it doesn't usually. It just makes them sick for a very long time. Okay?
What about ear infections? Is that wind?
It is actually phlegm, but it's caused from heat.
Oh, okay.
So then there's the people who just won't take care of themselves, won't stay home at all, ever, will claim at their 50th anniversary of working that they've never had a sick day. Doesn't matter that they've infected everyone in their office every year with some damn thing because they have shown up. So this actually happened to me in an ICU, so I'm working in an ICU, medical ICU that day. And I got floated over there. Now, medical ICU, everybody has chronic problems. You don't get in medical ICU with too many acute problems, not really. You know. So anyway, nurse comes up, not about this far from my face, and she said, "I think I have strep throat."
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
great.
you.
So she's in a medical ICU where the death rate is over 50%. And she brought in strep throat.
What?
I had strep throat. That's the first time I had strep.
And you didn't come to work.
I did not come to
Yeah.
work.
And what happened after the unit was filled with strep? They all died?
No, we just hang up more antibiotics. Good for the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Well, it's a capitalistic country. Come on now. Right? Yeah, nurses are the worst. So, you know, but a lot of people come in here and then I have to go, you know, I think you got pneumonia.
Ooh.
I want you to go to urgent care or to your doctor, get yourself an x-ray and get yourself started on antibiotics. And 9 times out of 10 I'm correct. Because you come in here going, I've had this damn cough for about 3 weeks. And I'm like,
Was pneumonia contagious?
some pneumonias are, and some are not. Now, a lot of times when you have walking pneumonia, it is not. It is that your body is so weak it hasn't been able to clear what the problem was before that, usually a cold or something, and it has sunk into your chest. Now, this is why you know, all of us have been vaccinated. So I'm much looser this year than I was the last couple of years. Trust me, last year you couldn't come in with these kind of symptoms. But you've been vaccinated, so if you've got those cold symptoms, you're best in here within about 24 to 48 hours so that I can help you get over the cold really fast so that we don't have to help you get over pneumonia. You know?
What's the difference between walking pneumonia and regular pneumonia?
Well, the regular pneumonia is always viral, bacterial, or fungal. It comes from an infection, now whether or not it's infectious. But the walking pneumonia is called walking pneumonia because you're still walking around. The other pneumonia, you stop walking. You become bedridden by no choice of your own. Okay, so we call this walking pneumonia because you love to walk around with it. The average time it takes for somebody to get this treated is 6 weeks.
What?
Right? Because they're not that bad, and it's just a cold, and I'll get over it. The most typical symptom of walking pneumonia is you've got one of those nights where you've just hacked yourself to death all the way into bed, and you've decided, I'm going to go see the doctor in the morning, really, really, really. And you wake up in the morning and you feel fine. Your fever is normal. You're not coughing all that much. You can take a deep breath. And then by noon, you start that coughing over again. Then you start to run a fever. Then by nighttime, you probably have a fever somewhere around 105 to 101.5. Not horribly high, but enough to be uncomfortable. You're coughing so much you may go to bed without dinner, and you're going to swear that in the morning, if I'm not better, and the problem is you are better, because the immune system is the strongest. at that time,
Oh, in the morning.
first thing in the morning, because you've been rested.
Oh,
Is that true for body aches too?
Well, body aches are usually the opposite, right? You have more of them in the morning and then they get better, unless they're joint involved, and then they often get worse, or they're fatigue involved, depends on your chi level there. So there's also generally a headache, and of course you get a sore throat. You've been hacking for 6 weeks. I mean, people, they don't have an infectious throat, but man, you cough enough and pretty soon your chest hurts, your ribs hurt, your throat hurts, everything hurts. And then when you go to cough, you have to brace yourself because it's all going to hurt,
yeah.
right? And now, if it hurts enough, you will actually slow down your coughing, and unfortunately, that will usually bring you into renal or respiratory failure.
Ooh.
So you can go into respiratory failure with walking pneumonia if you like to hang on to it long enough. My suggestion would be you come in here. Right?
So in this environment, what would you recommend that we wear masks? Most of us have been vaccinated.
If you're in a room full of people you know have been vaccinated, it's optional. But if you are in a room full of people where you're not sure, I would put the mask on. I really would.
Any other precautions?
Unless you know for sure you're gonna be far away from somebody. Yeah, stay out of the public, that's a good precaution. Or keep, close it down. You can go into environments where they are very, very cautious. And in such case, you go in wherever your comfort level is. But remember, the more people you put into a room, the more likely somebody's not vaccinated. And the more likely that unvaccinated person will be happy to pass along their gifts. Okay? Bell palsy. Now this is often confused with a stroke because half of your face quits working. And it's very sudden. You wake up and half your face doesn't work. Your eye won't close because you can't move it. Your face falls down because you can't lift it. Your tongue, you start choking and spewing on fluids, especially, but on food, because your tongue's not working on half of your face. Your neck muscles are not usually involved. Okay? And the way that it's really easy to tell whether somebody's got Bell palsy or a stroke. You actually ask them to lift their eyebrows.
Oh,
If they can lift their eyebrows, they had a stroke.
oh,
With Bell palsy, the whole face is paralyzed and they can't lift that eye either.
wow.
So if they can't make wrinkles in their forehead, they probably have Bell's palsy.
Oh, is that a disease?
It's actually, we think it's because 70% of it follows a viral infection. And RSV is one of those viruses that it can follow. This is a wind-cold condition. The wind has stopped the face from moving. It has broke it. All right? Now, the Western medicine treatment for this is they can give you an antiviral, which almost never works. And we could just wait 3 to 6 months.
Oh,
15% will not get their movement back in their face, or not all of their movement back in their face. Statistically, it takes us 10 days to 3 weeks to get your face back if you come in here. So, a lot of this is don't delay your treatment. Call me on the phone if I really hear something that says maybe you should be checked out first, and that happened all last year, right? You'd call me and I'd say, you have to get your negative COVID, and then you can come in here. And of course, they were so slow. Now, you can do a rapid test now, and you can know in 15 minutes. Then you can come in here, right? So, it does take needles in your face. Your face does tend to be hypersensitive, at least for the first month. So it is hard for people to have these put in.
Oh,
And we use a little bit of gentle electricity to wake the face up.
wow.
and it works. I have had people come in as late as 2 years after the episode, and I got about 50% of her facial movement back. So, you know, you can come late too. Now, where did my little cursor go again? See, I just hate that when that happens. I don't know where it is now.
It's under
This
C.
is how treatment is best done by prevention. I don't understand Americans right now. We all go around saying an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and then they won't get a vaccine. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems pretty lame to me, but whatever. I have to find my cursor here, folks, because gotta move something down on there for me. Well,
It's funny
You can
because we
see
can
it.
see it.
We see it.
oh,
Yeah.
you can see it, but I can't see it.
Yeah,
It's not on my screen.
that's bizarre.
It is bizarre. Do I have it
You have
now?
to tell you, let's say, get colder, colder, hotter, hotter, colder, colder, hotter, hotter, hotter. You
Well,
almost
except
there.
that you don't have the piece of my screen that I need it on. That, oh, there it is, I got it back. Okay, but you don't.
That's a beautiful picture too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my screensaver. Let's see if you have the next one. Nope, you don't. Okay.
Is it
What's that?
PowerPoint?
Black or unblack slideshow, maybe it's that one. Nope. All right. I just love computers.
Probably have to open the program to have to,
There you go.
Probably. Let me shut it down.
no, I don't think you have to
No,
shut it
no,
No,
down.
no, no.
Just
Just
open
open the PowerPoint,
it, just
That's
right
what
click
I'm
on the
doing.
P.
really.
It doesn't show that on my screen. This is not on my screen.
Well, you can just look at that screen.
Okay, keep up with both cursors then.
There it is.
Good. Got it back.
Okay, right where you left.
So the big thing, well, it's not quite, it's one farther forward. Okay, so the big thing is prevention is worth a pound of cure, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to talk now about your Dung Chi. This is the Chi that is accumulation of all that keeps you healthy. All that keeps you healthy. This includes your environment, this includes your relationships, this includes your emotional responses, this includes how strong your chi is, this includes making sure you eat the right things, okay? So diet, of course, needs to be adjusted to meet the time of the year, just like we did today, right? It's cold outside, it's windy outside, we ate pumpkin, for instance. Now, the biggest problem with diet is that the forbidden foods during this season are still available. And so when I say to people, well, just eat what's in season, everything is in season.
Right?
Because, you know, it used to be you couldn't get asparagus at this time of the year,
Yeah.
period.
Pineapple.
End of that whole discussion, right?
Yeah.
You can get asparagus at this time of the year,
Yeah.
too, right? You couldn't get grapes right now.
Yeah.
Well, they just go to Chile and they get the grapes for us.
Yeah.
So we, you know, tomatoes shouldn't be around at this time of the
No.
year, but they are. You know, the store is full of potatoes, right? Or tomatoes. So, you know, there shouldn't be zucchini or summer squash.
Potatoes.
You know, if you're willing to pay the price for these things, right, they're available. Not only should they not be eaten, but their carbon footprint of bringing grapes from Chile is very costly to this planet, right?
Yeah.
So the best place to go is the farmer's market. Because you can't find at the farmer's market what it won't ripen right now.
Yep.
Right? So, you know, when you go there, now what is coming into season right now?
Fruits and greens.
Not all fruits.
No, no.
Pears.
Citrus, pears, and apples, right?
And
Tangerines.
those things that look.
Persimmons.
Yeah.
And
I
pomegranates.
don't like
Right.
These are the fruits, you have to, you know, the problem with persimmons is they shouldn't be, they should be eaten mushy,
In a cookie.
but they don't ripen off the tree,
Oh.
just like apples don't ripen off of the tree.
Huh.
So unless you leave them on the tree, and then of course you have to get there before they fall off the tree, because now they're ripe, right? So, persimmons are a little tricky because
But
you
what
won't,
about the fuyus? Those are hard.
about what?
Fuyu persimmons.
Yeah, they have made them hard, but they're still better if they leave them on the tree
Ah.
until they're soft. The other problem is that ripe raw persimmons are used for constipation, and unripe hard persimmons are used for diarrhea.
Oh, goodness.
Great.
Which seems a little backwards when you know
We'll
the
call
medicine
you.
enough, right? So the big thing is that stone fruits are out of season. So if it has a stone in it, it's out of season, okay? So your leafy vegetables are back in season, right? You know, your kale, and your mustard, and your chard, and your bok choys, and your lettuce. Now remember, no raw foods though. This is winter. Raw foods are forbidden with the exception of nuts and seeds and 1 or 2 servings of
But you
fruit.
can cook,
We have carrots.
you can cook salad.
You can cook salad, and how do you
I
do
have.
that?
I steam it.
You can wilt it also with,
Well, it's
vinegars.
wilted. Oh, okay, yeah.
remember, fermentation is a process of cooking. That's what how our stomach cooks, is through fermentation, okay? So you wanna do that. You also wanna look to your root vegetables, right? Beets and radishes and parsnips and those kind of things, cooked, right? We wanna make sure our water is warm or hot, so it's teas. During this time of the year, it's black tea, not green tea. Green tea is cooling, black tea is warming. So you wanna go back there and then you look for pu'er and you look for oolong. White tea is okay during this period of time too. A really good drink at this time of the year is chai. Because it has the 5 warming spices in it of 5 spice. If you don't particularly like, you know, you can get it in a tea bag. Or you can get my recipe for yogi tea and then not put the tea in it if you don't want the tea, right? The honey that's added to chai tea is actually medicinal at this time of the year because it strengthens both the gut and the lung. Okay, so you wanna actually add that. Bengal spice tea by Celestial Seasoning is an excellent substitute. It has no teas in it, okay? But it does have cinnamon, ginger, cardamom, and cloves.
You said that honey's good for lungs and what else?
Large intestine.
So honey is a really good thing to eat.
Honey is a good thing to eat. Our problem is that we tend to overeat.
Yeah.
I just don't eat honey, but I need to try.
And it's also good if you have a cough, right?
Yeah.
You warm it up and you put lemon juice in it and then you take it by the teaspoon.
And a little bourbon.
And, well, I was gonna say, but and you give it to children, they'll take it.
But is there a preference for the type of honey though?
Yeah.
That's actually a flavor thing. We don't differentiate.
Because a lot of
So
store-bought
we
ones, I
use-
was just wondering, as opposed to, you know, they have
Local would be the best because it'll help you with your allergies.
correct.
Because you live here,
Mhm.
right? And then it has some pollen in it, right? Now, winter is a time of hibernation or partial hibernation,
Yay.
right? So this is a good time to get more sleep. Okay? We tend to feel that way anyway. The problem is we fight with it because our culture turned the lights on. You know, if you had to light candles, you'd just go to bed. Right? But you don't. And sleep helps you reduce your stress, right? Heal your body. This is also a really good time of the year for repetitive crafts. So something that's repetitive over and over again, knitting, crocheting. Of course, you crochet the blanket across your lap so you stay warm, right?
Yeah.
Weaving, spinning, these kind of indoor type of things that are very repetitive are actually very relaxing for this time of the year. They keep your brain from overactive. You want to change your clothing, of course.
What?
Yeah. And the big one is, remember, wind and cold attacks right here. So you want to cover it.
That's my scarf.
Turtlenecks, scarves, hats, these kind of things.
Yeah.
Go to bed in a turtleneck. Right? Nighttime is a yin time, and this is a cold time, and this is when cold attacks. So make sure that you have warm clothing on, especially on your neck. You can add heat to this area if you wish. You know, we've got tons of rice bags up there if you don't own one. Please go make sure that you do, or get one to somebody that you know doesn't have one, right? You want the house above 60 degrees.
No problem there.
And the older you are, the more the warmer the house needs to be.
What if you sleep in a room that's only 39 degrees and you don't suffer from it? Is that fine? Cause that's what I do.
Why would the room be
Woo,
39?
because I don't have heat in that room, I don't even have central
Doesn't
heating.
even get down to
But it was
39.
54 degrees last night.
Well, but I'm saying sometimes it gets down to 39,
Yeah, it's been put
and
on
I'm
a
fine.
hand. Well, you may be more warm-blooded than most, which I know you are. So, and there are people that sleep in houses that are not heated or they're not heated well. Okay, which I did for 30 years, but trying to get out of bed for that leg cramp at night was almost impossible because there were 48 blankets and 3 pair, and socks and hats, and it was like I was in
I can't stand to wear anything, just my underwear.
But how many blankets do you have?
10.
2.
It's like a third, not
Are
third.
you
Well, one
getting
is
leg
just
cramps?
No,
No, only from that medication.
Oh,
it's a goose down.
oh.
Yeah, it's, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is, yeah, that one is.
Electric blankets good
No.
for you?
Ooh, no.
No.
Well, there's a lot of controversy.
Everybody's
No.
saying, oh, no.
There is a lot of controversy
Yeah.
about electric blankets.
Ah.
You know, there's been no, all the studies have not shown that they're bad for you. And,
But
you
it's
know, in
the
the world of good
EMFs.
and bads, huh?
It's the EMFs from the cords and stuff.
The what?
The
Electromagnetic frequency
Oh.
fields.
Of course, you know, when they find that nothing's going on, the conclusion always has this sentence of, there is no bigger EMF generator than the earth itself, and you
Yeah.
can't get away from her.
Right.
And so the whole thing is,
Well-
it depends on what happens if you don't have it,
Yeah.
It's a balance issue, is what a lot of these things come down to. And there is a whole lot of money being made by people saying things that aren't necessarily true. On both sides of that equation, by the way, somebody's gonna make money by having an electric blanket and somebody's gonna lose money by you having one. So it's hard to know, but you have to weigh out, so are electric pads okay? They're essentially the same thing, right? Now, we tend to use hot water bottles, buckwheat, rice. It's not because of the EMFs. For crying out loud, you're gonna warm these darn things up in a microwave, right? It has to do with the energetics of the filling, all right? Because buckwheat pads are different than rice pads, are different than flaxseed, are different than a hot pad, are different than water, water bottles. So a lot of it has to do with what energetics are needed. Now, under most circumstances, I'd say probably under 80% of the time, I don't care what you use, just warm yourself up. But sometimes I actually really do care. And I tell you, no, I don't want you using flaxseed, I don't want you using rice or something like that. And it has to do with the energetics of what is heating you. Now, if you don't want to use electricity and you want it to last the longest, use hot water bottles. Water holds heat longer than anything.
We have to get
Yes,
going.
that's right.
Thanks.
You bet, we'll see you.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, so a little acupressure you can do for yourself.
Can we have that picture?
Please.
Send me an email. and I'll
Okay,
print it off.
You want a picture of this?
This, yeah, so I can get tattoos.
Well, why don't you just take a picture of it?
Oh, that's right, I don't have a phone.
Ed could take a picture.
Ed, okay.
So,
Thank you, Ellen.
Calm down.
this is your shin, all right?
Yes.
Knee, ankle, shin, okay? I'm gonna roll up my pant leg and everybody be polite, okay?
Aw.
Knee, ankle, right? Notice that there's a little hump right here. See a little
I
hump
can't
right
see.
there? You can feel it?
Okay.
There's a little hump right there. If I stick my finger on that little hump and I slide to the outside,
Yeah.
I fall in a little hole. Yeah. Right there. And if I actually am in the right place, it almost always hurts if I press on it.
Mm-hmm.
right here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not the second hole, there's one on the other, if I go over the top of the bone, I can come to another hole, that's actually gallbladder 34, which is really good if you have a leg cramp.
Oh,
So where, cause we get like.
What is that point called?
Okay, so if you get the little hump and you go to the outside and you find that hole, if I go over the bone that's right there, and I come to another little hole that's actually between the tibia and the fibula, that one is for leg cramps.
oh, okay, I feel that.
This one here?
Yeah.
the one
No,
behind.
not quite that,
Yeah.
not that far out, right
No?
here.
Yeah, I haven't found
Just
it.
that.
So
Here?
the tibia and the fibula, so here is stomach 36,
Yeah,
and then if I just barely go over,
Oh.
it's right there,
oh, okay,
okay?
yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense?
Show me on mine if you can, I can't remember. I can see if you can
So
feel.
if you see the little hump,
Okay.
and if I come out here, you're
She
really
keeps
good.
telling me,
Okay.
okay.
And if I go
Wrong
all
way.
over the bones,
Yeah,
and
see,
there's
I feel
strong,
Wants
yeah,
a home or comes to me, I'll go, I'll be seeing you.
yeah. So this is for, this is the most tonifying point in the body. If you can't find any other one, and I get you all confused, just ignore me for the rest of the time, just find this one, okay? Very, very important one. Large intestine 4, you're probably really familiar with, the headache point that's on the back of your hand in this web. If I make my little hand talk, see how it poops up? The top of that little mouth, the highest point is where you'll find that. And if you press it, it almost always has a little bubble in there and it hurts. It boosts the immunity, alright? Spleen 3 is on your foot, so Karen's volunteers. Notice how we have the hump of the big toe, so we have the big toe,
Yeah.
and we have a joint.
Yeah.
This is spleen 2.
Oh, right.
If I go over her hump, that's spleen 3.
Wow, one side.
So it's right below the bunion,
The bunion, yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Alright?
So on
Got
the
it?
other side of the bunion is.
Yeah,
Two
and
and
below the bunion is spleen 3. And this
Yeah.
one helps all of the digestion because you are what you eat and you can't boost your immune system without boosting up the digestive system, okay? And then, because remember we talked about it all attacks right here?
Mm-hmm.
So you all have this hump on your wrist. Feel that hump on your wrist? It's below the hump and it points towards my finger. So right here.
It's like another little feeling of a hole, right?
It's another little hole.
Yeah.
Supposed to hurt you?
Oh, below the hump.
Sometimes it does, most of the time it doesn't actually hurt, but yours, I
Here's
wouldn't
your
doubt.
Is this hump right here?
No,
Yeah.
on this, the
Yeah,
inside,
it really does hurt.
right here's your hump.
Wow.
Yeah, right there, you can see your hump and then it's right on the bottom side of it, right there.
Yeah, take a
And it
picture.
points towards the,
Lung.
so this one is to
Lung.
regulate the lung chi in the back of the neck. Okay?
You can sit here and do that all day.
You could. You could do any of these all day, right?
Feels that
And
good.
then the person next to you,
You don't have
what the
anything
hell
else
are
to
you
do.
doing?
Okay, so those are how you can help yourself. Okay.
What's going on
Now,
with you?
moxa is done at home in China.
What's that? What'd you say?
Moxa is done at home in China
In China.
and other Asian countries. But
So when you
most
come
people
here,
like
it's
to
home.
come here and let me
Yeah.
That's
You're
right.
not
You
gonna
know,
do it at home?
using my moxa boxes,
The cute little box.
putting things on top of your needles.
Let me see those, I wanna see what those.
You wanna see what they look like? Yeah, 'cause you're always
I
on your
use them every
tummy.
time. Oh, wow,
Let me see.
looks like a cigarette filter.
And those are stuck on top of the needle so that the moxa burns. And it's the smoke and the heat that we're using for the medicine.
And it works.
Yeah.
And when we, yeah,
I had it
I
yesterday.
think a lot of you have
Took
moxa,
my knee
right?
pain.
Really?
No?
What'd you
I
say?
had it yesterday and it
Yeah.
took away, I
You can use moxa boxes, yeah, you could walk.
I keep telling my orthopedic doctor that I need a knee replacement, and he's like, oh, no, not yet, and I was sure I did, but I think you said that when you have illness in your body, the weakest point, it'll settle in,
Exactly.
so, yeah, I got it yesterday, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
ready to
Now
dance.
you know. Now she'll be going home with a moxa box, so she can strap it on her knee every day, right?
I gotta go back to
And that will be fine. Artemisia moxa, it's called.
Oh, yeah.
It's the variety of Artemisia that's moxa. It literally is that's the Latin name, all right? And it is the hairs on the bottom of the leaf. And then it gets scraped off and they make it into a wool. This is the hair from the bottom of the leaf.
It's so lightweight too. I know, it's got a hole in there.
Yeah, I know, but it'll burn anyway. So, we use it, it will get rid of pain and cramping. I mean, it's pretty instantaneous. You can light up a moxa box and just put it right over the top of a cramp and it'll just go.
Like a miracle.
So
It is a miracle.
How do you light it up? What do you do?
Yeah, she lights it up, man.
Huh?
Yeah, she lights it up and has a great
Yeah, she
odor.
puts it on the back of the needle and then she lights it.
Take the odor.
It has a great odor, doesn't it?
They
I love it.
do
I love it.
Now, we use this for asthma. So those of you with asthma, you'll probably be okay.
And the rest of us will do what?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it took my lungs a while to get used to this stuff. They used to just.
What?
Too.
Oh, nothing, no.
Check out the food.
Check out the
Like for the, tightness in the chest, would that be good too, to
Yeah,
smell it?
yeah,
So you just smell it.
you can.
Puff some moxa,
Oh,
Karen.
please.
You can have some moxa.
That's funny.
I'll go with it.
It has an interesting smell. It had to grow on you.
Yeah.
That's small.
Wow.
Doesn't
that feel yummy?
too.
This is like getting wrapped in a warm blanket from the inside.
Yeah, you can really feel it. I'll be
Whoa.
darned. That's.
Okay.
Right.
And this is how we
Maybe
do
it is.
it at
You never know
home.
with her.
We do it in the
I
bottom
don't
of the
smoke
van.
marijuana in Muskogee.
And you can put this on one side of your body and hold it here for about 35 minutes and you'll begin to feel it on the other.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Wow. So if you have asthma,
Doesn't that feel good? This is what you call your moxa hug.
Whoa.
You're gonna waft the moxa.
See,
Love it.
see, now the feds
I
won't
like
chase
it.
you because, oh, I need the
I need them
Back here.
to make the DEA very upset.
Right, it's a-
Lost
You
30
got
pounds.
marijuana.
Wow.
Yeah, it's size 4 now.
These
are ready for it.
How do you do it?
So,
Doctors feel that 20 died.
Yeah, right.
And I love it. I mean, I love it, and you measure all your food.
Oh,
where you
goodness
weigh
sakes
it.
alive.
Anybody else want moxa while I'm here?
Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Oh,
Heart, I bet it did.
I feel cured of everything that's wrong with me,
Yeah.
okay?
It's
Whatever it
okay to
was.
do this at home, there's lots of different ways to do moxa at home. One of them is the infamous moxa box.
Ah. The moxa boxa.
The moxa boxa, where the moxa can actually be put in the boxa.
Oh,
Yeah,
moxa
they're gonna steal
boxa.
stuff out of there.
What the heck, man?
That's what we have.
Oh, so you just,
And you have one of those.
what do you do, Ann?
No, we have that one.
What do you put in the boxa?
I put the end of the moxa in the boxa.
yeah.
Okay, and then just let it sit there?
And then I let it go.
And then you just breathe?
Yeah, I just,
Okay, because she was doing the holding thing, and I said, well, what do you do with that one? So I just
all of
leave
the
it there.
points that you do on your chest.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
it's like a good massage, but
Yeah.
like better, because you
Yeah.
don't have anybody
you
touching
just have to
it.
breathe
Yeah.
it.
I've been living on a heating pad.
Oh.
Oh, goodness.
Can you
sakes
use this for
alive.
COPD?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
So this is the
I just
moxa
sell it.
box.
Wow.
Oh,
I just
wow. You're kidding.
So you can
Oh,
use
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I had a hurt that I could.
So you have like a
Yeah.
little boxa.
But I'm
Yeah.
like,
So,
how do you do that?
Yeah, if you have the leg cramp right,
come on,
see,
Doc.
you can rub it up and down on your leg cramp.
It can strap on,
But
Okay.
I want
Now,
a
this
box.
will get hotter after a while.
I want a box on.
You want a boxa?
I
We
do.
we all want
Don't
lots
you,
of boxes.
So when this gets too hot, and I can't hold it in my hand anymore, I put it in the heating pad.
And then when that gets too hot, you put the whole thing in a pillowcase.
Right
Inside the pillow.
The nice thing about this is I can strap it on. Right?
How long does it take for a leg cramp to help it?
Actually, within, yeah, well, not 2 seconds, but within the minute.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you get like this leg cramp here,
The
right?
ones that I
you
get up
could
here
put-
is
you
like,
could put it just like that.
So I have bigger stick like that, because I don't
Yeah.
get send the pictures sometimes.
Yeah.
Little ones?
Yeah, the little ones sometimes don't have enough. I usually use it the way I
We need
have
this
it.
to
So what size do you put in there?
It depends on how long you want it to go. So usually I have it about this
So you
long,
can
but
just
you
cut
could
it.
make, yeah.
Go to the dog.
Oh, it's just scissoring it. I gotta have one of these, and
I
I
do
gotta
too.
have a.
These are the Moxa boxes here, and they're really beautiful.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
lots of
Yeah.
boxes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you'll need the Moxa too.
I must have this.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
got the
I
box.
have one of
So you
those.
can buy it by the 1 or you can buy it by the 10. Okay, so these are the
Are we
Moxa.
done?
So,
No,
I don't know. Everybody
I'm gonna go and get something.
They're trying to clean my Moxa
I don't know
boxes.
why everybody's.
So where are the
I'll sit down.
So
What
give
is
us
this?
the
No, I don't wanna go.
We'll get
Those
some more
corn
food, man.
muffins are good.
So
We're
the
not
Moxa
going, are we?
boxes are right, no,
I've got it all.
Here's it,
It's all
right
in
there.
the bag.
I'm
Get
cold.
sold out and.
Uh-oh.
I'm
Get
freezing.
ready to.
No, I think I have more
Right
down
there.
there, but I'll wait till after.
Yeah.
this.
I always
So,
come
and
back
then
to it, you
this
guys can
is the-
really take that one.
Is it purple?
It is.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
see it.
Oh, beautiful color.
Oh, gorgeous.
Eggplant.
Yes.
Aubergine.
I think I have
Aubergine.
more.
I love it.
Aubergine.
Now you'll need Moxa.
I have boxes.
Okay.
Hey,
I was gonna get a couple.
Now, not less Moxa.
I don't know if you, I have exactly what you
You're
want.
so
Yeah.
sweet.
Because those small ones don't seem to.
Okay.
Right, they don't get as hot.
Very
You
intense.
can get
Yes.
1 or you can get 10.
Well, you're
I mean,
metal.
You know, you don't have to do
Yeah,
a whole
That's
10.
what she said, remember? Ann?
Sorry, Pauline.
I'm
wandering over the
last
top
time.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
okay. I think.
I think so.
Okay.
Where are you going, young man?
Gee, best sales I've made all day.
I might want something for that.
Okay,
I'll get
so
it.
for you that don't have never used the Moxa boxes before, be sure that you come to my office after we're all done so I can give you a safety sheet, okay?
Yeah.
Safety, yes.
Well, I don't want you burning
I
your
get
house
some
down.
burn, forgive us your address.
You don't want us to
Yeah,
get
if
it.
you read about it, it's gonna be your house burned down.
If you're afraid that you might burn yourself, I would suggest you have some burn cream around.
I don't think I'll burn myself.
Just be careful. A burn cream will
In,
instantaneously stop the burn.
but I think I'm just gonna, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna burn.
But
I don't, you know, most people do not.
I'm terrified. I'll let them do
Now, one of the things that has happened,
Well, it's, need to
okay,
get,
right.
I just need to get out.
One of the things that does happen
I
is
don't want everything
people,
to be alone.
don't put their Moxa out.
Don't put it
Oh,
out.
I get the house down.
And so, well, we actually had a
You smother it?
student. Yeah, you smother it. We
Smother
had a
it.
student light the apartment building on fire. when I was in my master's program.
You have to smother it, see, yeah.
So if you're using the Moxa box,
Yeah.
just put it someplace safe that's not flammable and it'll burn itself out. Right?
Look
Because
outside.
remember, you know, you can still feel this, it's cool.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
but if you want to, I mean, if you wanna put it out, what do you do?
You're not gonna be able to touch this. You're not gonna be able to touch your box or you'll burn yourself.
How long should you keep it on your, like me or wherever you want to keep it?
Half hour, 20 minutes, depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Now, a lot of women use this for their periods, okay? And they may walk around with it for 7 days.
Whoa.
Yeah, just continuously burning.
Keep lighting that flame, folks.
So you can keep it on for a couple of hours if
You
you
can
sit
keep
down?
it on for
Oh,
another
okay.
couple of hours, yes.
What is that thing you're wearing? Well, I'm pregnant. I just, it's just a little tiny baby right now.
It's just really small right now.
Yeah.
So,
Look at
now
that.
you of course can come here.
Yes.
Okay, so
You
there's
know what,
Qigong. This is Lee Holden.
Oh, Oh, yeah.
He's the
I
one
saw
that I'm
him.
always recommending. This is his mom,
Wow.
She looks better than him.
and she's been doing Qigong actually better, longer than him. I bet she was doing Qigong when he was born.
Wow.
Whoa.
Now, you can go to holdenqigong.com and he has a bazillion movements. I love his 30-day challenge because it's 7 minutes every day. And he goes through all 5 elements. So this is a food sheet for the winter. Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so, you know, and if you don't like something on it, don't worry about it. There's a lot of stuff for salad. If you're having, if you know you already have lung weaknesses, or you just tend to be that person that's always catching diseases, I would highly suggest that you use our preventative formula, the Yuping Bang salt.
Can I have one more, please, Ed?
I don't know.
No.
Now, never prescribe
Did you get-
yourself
you
our
take one?
herbs, because it's just like medicine, you take it for the wrong reason, you're gonna have a problem. There are also some medicines for which you should not be taking herbs. For instance, if you're on any kind of chemotherapy, we wouldn't give you this, because this strengthens the immune system, and then chemotherapy is trying to attack the immune system. So, we don't want you to undo what's trying to be done.
Is that the little tiny black pills that I take?
You take Bujang Ichiwan, don't you?
The little, it's the J.
Jade Defender, yeah, but you take it Mayways? Or
It's
did
the
you get the
only-
one with the green bottle?
Green bottle.
Oh, the green bottle, yeah.
Same thing?
Same thing.
Yeah, I like it.
What is that for now? You said it.
This is
It's
to
a-
strengthen the lung
Lung.
and the immune system. If you happen to be one of those people that need that, okay? When you get a little bit, now, the very first symptom, we can put you onto a formula, or you can have it at home and it'll knock it out like that. Right? But you have to use the right formula. I had somebody call me the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact, and she said, do you have any Ganma Ling? She was from an acupuncturist that had retired. I said, well, yeah, I have it, but what do you need it for? She says, well, I want to take it as a preventative. It's not a preventative, it's a treatment. And I said, well, that's not a preventative at all. And she says, well, you know, and she went on to explain to me that this other acupuncturist had given it to her. And then, of course, she said, well, I was having some symptoms. It was a treatment then, too, because I was a little concerned, right? So we might just put you on a mild formula and give you a acupuncture up on the neck. Take care of things. We might, this is a little soup here.
Is that Jill?
No, this
No?
is Kung Bai Tong. Kung Bai Tong.
Oh, okay.
This is green onion and tempeh
Love it.
in a consommé.
Love
in a
it.
clear soup. You
Great.
can take it this is actually a very, very early treatment. So if you think that your nose is gonna sniffle, that's when you use this one.
Oh.
So you have a recipe for that?
That is the recipe.
So
Green onions, tempeh, and water.
And you could also use vegetable broth, of course.
You could put vinegar in it if you want to. You can use
That's really
any
good.
kind of broth,
Okay.
whatever turns you on.
Where do you
Or
buy the
not.
tempeh? Is it fresh or is it like in a package?
You can get it in a package and you can get it in different flavors.
Can we?
And you could also use miso instead of tempeh. if you
Oh, yeah.
wanted, sure.
Okay.
And those are available, both of those are available in all of these new organic food stores.
Yeah.
Sprouts and Save More, or Save Mart.
Yeah.
Because we gotta Save More and a Save Mart.
Yeah.
Trader
Save me.
Joe's. You can actually get them also at Wincom. Back by where you make peanut butter,
Yeah.
If you like the taste of it, it's okay to
eat it anytime, yes.
Okay.
But this is the early treatment.
Okay.
This is early treatment. Because once there's a grip on you, then I have like 14 other treatments, right? Gua sha,
Yeah.
you know, you come in here and I do gua sha on you.
We wash
And
each other.
You good?
Do
for
you?
guys.
Yeah.
And then you look like somebody dragged you across the floor. and you feel great.
That doesn't look like it would be good.
No,
It's
it really,
uncomfortable.
It's just
uncomfortable,
a, it's just a
but
scraping, that's all it is.
Yeah, it's a
not
funny,
horrible.
it's a funny treatment because it looks horrible
Yeah,
But
and
it's not.
it works wonderfully.
What does it do? What
It
does
actually
do for you?
releases.
It pulls out all the sicky.
It opens up the pores
I
to
swear.
release.
Huh.
Release, yes.
It's
See,
wonderful.
Of
Yes,
course, we
indeed.
can do coffee,
Bye.
right?
And that was
Bye.
bad too.
Bye,
Huh?
So that was
Bye.
bad too.
It does look
But
bad.
you know
It
what?
looks really good though when you,
Oh.
when Gwyneth Halco pays enough money to have it very, very even
Oh.
Was she that,
on the runway.
it looks,
oh
it
my
looks
God.
like, it looks like it might be skimming a person, but it's not.
Well, and
It's-
I bruise so easily.
Yeah, well,
See, I
me
can't
too, but
even
the point
imagine.
is,
It looks like you were
it's-
captured by an octopus.
It's stimulating, you know, what a masseuse does, it's stimulating the same things.
And, but
You know,
it
but it's
lifts it
far-
up, you
yeah.
know, all of these are lifting
Yeah,
the pathogen out of
Yeah.
your body.
yeah,
Because it's
Sucking
caught
it up.
remember it's caught under your skin
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
because the pores
Right.
have closed.
Yeah.
And so we're lifting it up so that it can come out of your body
Mm.
and resolve.
So how long do the bruises last after you do
It
that?
depends on how much toxins you have and how healing you are.
Yeah.
Well, over time, you know, I may start with people that take, you know, weeks for one of these things. And it's not a healing, it's a going away because they don't bruise. It's not
Oh.
a bruise.
no, it's not a bruise, no.
But the coloration takes time to go away.
Isn't that,
If you
the
wanna look
coloration, isn't
abused.
that from the
Right.
blood circulation, you know, that causes that red? Isn't that the blood circulation coming to the surface or
that
something?
You're talking about for
Wash out.
shot?
Yeah,
The redness that often gets around this, like this,
Yeah.
it goes away really rapidly because we're heating up your skin, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
But this stuff, this Shaw, and when you touch it, you can feel it. It's bumpy.
uh-huh,
Western medicine still can't figure out what this is. They can't deny that it exists. Now, what we will tell you is that these are toxins being raised to the surface.
yeah,
And what those toxins consist of depends on why we're doing it. In this case, we would be looking at the pathology of wind cold.
mm-hmm,
And we'd be raising that pathology back out, right? But we can do this for muscles too. You know, where people have sore muscles, I might be doing that. Or they have tendonitis, like they've strained something. And it's really fast. I had a woman who decided to hold a tree. I know, it doesn't sound very smart.
hold a tree.
Somebody had sawed down the tree and it was falling the wrong way and she
Oh
was
my
on the
goodness.
rope, right?
Oh.
And she gave it her all. And she ended up with tennis elbow or tendonitis, right?
Yeah.
Because she strained it.
could
And I
be
did
dead.
gua sha 6 months after she did that because she hadn't come in before that. And it went right away. Because it was so full of toxins. And if you look at it from a Western medicine point, we look at like adhesions
Yeah,
and tension and cramping and triggering and it breaks that all up. It's a mechanical breaking up.
Hmm.
And it is intense. I'm not gonna tell you it's not.
Yeah.
But we work together to make sure it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
and it doesn't
And
hurt,
just
it,
as soon as you're about ready to go, that's enough, all this stuff pops up.
but
And then I slow down.
I don't
anyway,
remember it hurting at all.
Right?
I don't remember pain associated with that.
No, it's just the intensity.
Uh-huh.
But as soon as it gets to that point, and I can tell when it's getting to that point because you start doing something like this away from me. People, they do, you know, they start moving away because it's intense, and then I'm like, okay, it's almost here, and there, and then it just presents.
Can you do it on
Pops right
any
out.
part of the body?
You have to have enough flesh.
Flesh, okay.
So, like,
No
Well,
problem
yeah.
here, no problem here.
well, you can't do it over, like, say, the top of the knee, because there's not enough flesh. But
Okay.
you could do it from the eyes down, you know, or even in the eyes.
Okay.
Right? You could do because it's a nice soft spot, right? You can't do it over the ankle or the wrist. You
No,
can do
where
it.
there's no, where there's bone, you don't wanna do
Yeah, where
it.
there's not enough flesh, because
Yeah,
this
okay.
is a treatment of the flesh.
What if you're old and you don't have enough flesh anyway?
You have to, we have to be
Oh.
very careful, and sometimes we can't do it.
Yeah, okay.
Huh,
You know, if somebody's, well, I wouldn't do that particular treatment on Pauline, for instance.
oh, uh-huh,
Yeah, because it would tear her.
it would be way too intense for her,
Now,
right?
this is done with oils, so it slides.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's not, the friction is not.
My skin tears really
Yeah.
easily too.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I
it's
tear
really-
it all the time.
Oh,
So it's hard to, you know, you have to do it on somebody who can tolerate it, who's got a condition that it even works for. I mean, there's no point in doing it if there isn't one, right?
Right.
Other than it feels really good,
yeah, right,
you know, because sometimes I'll just be standing around and I'll grab something and do some gua sha on myself just because it feels good.
Huh.
Okay. So anyway, those are some of the things that we do in addition to acupuncture, of course. You know.
yeah.
And a lot of these treatments are done in the massage chair for colds, because if I lay you down, you can start hacking.
Mm,
You know, so I leave you up, right? I think you had one done in the chair too.
no, that wasn't me.
Huh.
My clone.
Your clone. Questions, comments?